Hello, and welcome back to the Part-Time Otaku podcast. My name is Grant.
My name is Dave.
Week 5, My Hero Academia has arrived. It's a joke now at this point. Every week, I cannot believe we're already like 5 episodes in. It honestly feels like breakneck pace, Dave.
Yeah, it's moving. Do we know how many episodes this one's going to be?
I do not, actually.
I don't know why. Maybe I'm thinking of Attack on Titan, but I feel like they're going to get up to like the mid-teens or something, but I don't know.
I would imagine so. I can't imagine they would cut it off before 12, But before we get too ahead of ourselves, we want to give a shout out to ava.art on Instagram. Awesome Hawks art that you're allowing us to use for the thumbnail.
Love me some fan art.
Kind
of works this week too, because Hawks has a neat little scene in this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. I was a little late to the episode, or watching the episode, and when you sent me the thumbnails, what we're working with this week, I was like, well, that Hawks one is awesome. And then I finally got to the episode. I was like, perfect.
Yeah. Before we jump into the breakdown of this episode, I want to thank you guys for listening to the post show. We've done 2 episodes of that already. We're probably going to keep going. If you haven't listened to the post show yet, basically when Grant and I wrap up the My Hero podcast, we keep going, and it's a little bit more laid back. We talk about other anime we're watching. For instance, right now we're watching To Your Eternity, Invincible. We also talk about other non-anime shows like the Winter Soldier, the Falcon show, that Marvel show. Just other stuff going on in the industry, like the Demon Slayer movie, and just like, new animes that are set to debut, and, also just to shoot the shit. So yeah, thank you for listening to that. We're going to continue to do it. We usually drop those episodes a couple days after we drop these. So if you haven't listened, give it a try.
Yeah, thanks. So into the synopsis. In the second match of Class A versus Class B saga, we catch up with some of the OG members of the show. Tokoyami faces off against Kiryu, a Class B student with a similar quirk.
He gave him the business.
Dave, I'm probably gonna be saying this every week.
Hit me.
But this is my favorite episode yet.
Yeah, they're doing a good job. Like, actually, it is pretty close. I would say it's really close for me between this episode and last episode.
Yes, yeah.
But like similar pace, right?
Margin,
like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Slow build, and then explosive at the end.
Yeah. We haven't seen Tokoyami in a while, and
no.
I think you and I were talking about how, like, it's good to see that they're kind of going back. Well, not going back, but, like, the show is taking its time to catch you up on all of these characters that aren't Midoriya.
The where they've been.
Because they literally have, like, and, this is what happened while he was off screen, like, moment in this episode.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought it was a tight episode. Also, you could tell they kind of played with the purse strings in a couple scenes, and busted some money out for some animation, because there are a couple of really cool sequences.
Yeah, it's really cool how, because you and I were worried a couple weeks ago about kind of the pacing of each episode. Like at that point, we were kind of worried about the pacing, but they've seemed to fall into this little pocket of momentary recap. Mm-hmm. Intro, kind of setting the scene a little bit, and then like in it, and then you're right in the weeds. And it feels like every episode so far, it's like each of like that 3-step process of the episode is tightening up just a little bit more.
Yeah, we're getting to the business a little bit quicker.
Exactly. And
that's such an anime thing, though. Like, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know, maybe they used to do this in the My Hero other seasons, I don't know if they did, but it reminds me of Goku charging that spirit bomb the first time I watched Dragon Ball Z, like on Namek. Do you remember how obscenely long that was?
Well, I can only imagine, because we were probably watching that at YTV at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So like,
you're waiting week to week to watch the spirit bomb get a little bit bigger.
And even then, like, you'd go and watch the same time the next day, and then you'd be watching like a random episode of when Piccolo versus Gohan. Like, it was never consistent.
Yeah.
But anyway, so like I do like the direction they're going so far. Like when it comes to pacing, do you think it's going to get a little boring? Just this like week to week because I've noticed it's episode of intro fight, partial fight, following episode is going to be the rest of the fight.
The wrap up, yeah.
So it's like they're doubling up every episode. But do you think that's it's going to get a little not old, but like it's just going to be so repetitive in five scenarios because of the 5 fights.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, originally I would say no, and
Okay.
and I'm split on it because
Yeah.
the last fight or the last drill or whatever you want to call it was really great. This one has been really great so far, but clearly we're really building towards this Midoriya versus Shinsho. Midoriya's turn.
Yeah.
And it seems like we're gonna go at this current pace until we get to that, and it feels like it's gonna take a while to get there. Like,
yeah,
we might have 5 more episodes of this.
No, I know. I do agree that like they're clearly setting up like the Midoriya Shinsho fight, but they're not. I do appreciate that they're not taking away with everything leading up to that point. Like they're not just saying like, yeah, here's some fights with the rest of the class. Like the good shit's coming soon. It's like so far like the fights we've seen like
that's true.
The budget is there. Like the effort is being put in everything that we see. So that's that's the other side of the coin. But it's obvious like. They're setting up for the final fight,
Yeah. I wonder how that'll go and how many episodes they'll devote to it. Not to say like that we're complaining because like we said at the top, like it is really good to see a lot of these characters, what they've been doing in the interim, how far they've come, and like just to give them all like some well-deserved screen time. Like Tokiyami, like when's the last time we had a him-centric episode or even a moment, you know what I mean? So fair is fair.
Yeah.
But it also, like we've mentioned this before, like sometimes you're like, wow, how is the manga so many more chapters? And it's like how is it so far ahead? And it's like, this is how it's so far ahead. Because they can just do this forever.
Well, that's the thing, because there's a moment in this episode, and it's jumping ahead, but I think it's kind of a good thing to discuss. There's a moment with All Might, and he's kind of just sitting back and observing the class, and you can tell he's proud. But there's a point in that when he's kind of having that inner dialogue of, the year is coming to an end, and it's like, it's been 5 seasons, and it's been a year.
Yeah. Wow, that's so obscene.
And I'm like, that, and it kind of like, it didn't rub me the wrong way, but I was kind of like, really? Like, that seems like it's very stretched. But there's also been so much good stuff in, like, these 5 seasons, right? So it's like, it's which way do you want it? Do you want the story to, like, flow a little more naturally and quicker? Or do you want this big saga,
I wonder if in present... Obviously, we're not... Or maybe not obviously. We didn't mention it this time. But we're not manga readers, right? We're anime onlys. Yeah, so, true. Like, I wonder if in present day caught up manga... if they're still at school, or if like is there if it's gonna end, because I think they said that they're entering their final arc of the manga
this year, I believe.
Yeah, I wonder if that takes place in school or if he's a pro hero at that point. Obviously, I'm jumping years of anime ahead.
Like seriously, like years for us, like it's but
just
no. But anyways, let's just get right into from the beginning there, because I feel like we're getting a little ahead of ourselves.
So Aizawa sort of recaps, they like the team that just played with is it Kirishima? I forget the lightning guy's name.
Yeah. Kaminari.
Kaminari. Yeah. So that team and the team they beat, Class B, they basically kind of have like a constructive criticism moment, right?
Awesome scene.
It was a good scene where they basically are like, we did well, but like we lost Coda and we lost Red Riot in the process. How can we prevent that from happening? Aizawa gives them like some good tips, and it's like there was really great contrast. I really enjoyed that, because the next moment is the Class B homeroom teacher just screaming at them. You
could tell, just being a bit of a sore loser about it.
He's good. I mean, he also just has zero chill to begin with.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they meant it to be kind of a funny moment. I thought it was somewhat funny. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. But the nice thing about the Aizawa scene is, I think, I think it was just me, but I had some reservations of, I hope he wasn't just going to be singling out Shinsho and like focusing attention on him. But this was clearly evidence of that is just not the case, which is was very relieving for me. But and it was cool to see. It was a good contrast of them saying what they thought they did wrong, and then him stepping in and being like, well, no, or yes, that is exactly what it is, but like wasn't being negative about it. And all of them, and the commentary thing, I laughed. He's like, "You love me, right?" Like, and then when he gives him his criticism, is like, "Did your team have to get an ass kicking for you to show up?" And I was like, "There you go."
Yeah, punk.
Which is true.
Yeah,
That's his card. Like he's kind of like the the clutch wild card in any fight he's ever in.
Yeah, it also felt, and like we haven't done a lot of this in this show, because there is just, well, I don't know if there isn't as much or whatever, but anyway, it felt like a very specific foreshadowing moment to me where Shinsho is specifically like going over his raps, like his binding raps.
Yeah.
And he's like, I kind of choked here, and he's thinking about how he got caught in that air prison. I don't know, I just feel like Shinsho's the only one out of all the students here that's going to get to have a second go, right? So I have a feeling we're going to see him learn, and like on his second go around when he's going up against Midoriya, I have the feeling that maybe he'll be a little more effective, or that maybe he'll apply some of the lessons that he just learned.
Well, there's that too, and then like Aizawa makes the point of, it took me 6 years to master these. Mm-hmm. So going into the next fight, Shinsho's not going to rely on those raps because he knows that's not going to be to his benefit in that fight. Mm-hmm. So he's
interesting to see what approach he takes.
And that's the thing too. I find it the dynamic of Midoriya versus everyone else. Like, I know he's still learning his powers, but like he can blow a lot of them out of the water.
100%.
Like there's very much like a power imbalance between him and a lot of the other class.
Totally.
Like, because that's the thing too, like he can't just unload because he'll kill someone. Mm-hmm. But that's like the part of his learning and all that. That's the whole point of this show is like him learning this journey. But no, it was really nice to see that teaching moment from Aizawa. So, yeah.
They also take a moment to highlight like a lot of these people at this point, they've seen action as heroes, like, because they have their provisional, is that what it's called, provisional licenses or provincial licenses?
Provisional hero license.
Yeah, there was that fight at the climax of season 4 or mid season 4 when they took on Overhaul and Co. A lot of them were there. Red Riot was there.
Proppy.
Okaka-chan was there. Yeah, all these people were there because they were on duty. So
yeah,
they've definitely played outside of drills, and maybe they have an advantage with that in mind.
And like they've gone toe to toe with the League of Villains, like
more than once at this point.
Well, some of them, I guess, some of Class B. There's that summer camp,
forest attack. Yeah, that was
cool.
That was a fun time.
That was really cool. Good fights, good villain fights there. But yeah, so like that's it. They have an advantage. Yes, like the other classes had time to focus on their stuff a little more, but they really hit home improv in these past 2 episodes.
Yeah.
I think the title of this one has it like right in, I think there's improv somewhere in the title. And then the last episode, I think someone from Class B, like watching the screen, makes a point of like, look at them, they're improvising kind of thing or whatever. But it's a very interesting dynamic.
Afterwards, once they've all got like their feedback or their constructive criticism, everybody starts talking about, okay, Class B kind of lost because of the focus on Shinsho, and that kind of messed everything up. So everybody kind of starts getting in their groups and talking about their composition. Like, okay, so who should we put focus on? Like Todoroki's group is like, well, you're kind of front and center, so on and so forth. So that happens. That's like a very, very quick moment. And then we like more or less dive right into the next match. Before the match starts, there's like some fun, I don't know what you would call them. There's some fun conflicts or quick conversations between these two teams. Do you remember what's her face? Itsuku Kendo? Yeah.
I do, yeah.
She's got the giant fist, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, she's the giant fist. Because actually I think she was pretty pivotal during that summer camp we were just talking about, where the League of Villains attacks them out in the woods. Yeah. I think she was one of the few Class B characters that was like very much in that arc. Like,
had an impact, eh?
Yeah, every episode I think she was like in it for like a good portion. And then there's also that
Kurito?
No, but there's also like the commercial that she did too.
Oh yes,
With
yes.
that was, I
She's
think that was one of the other times we've seen her.
yeah. She had a commercial, and she was kind of saying basically to Momo Yayo Zoru. Yet, how do
Mm.
you say that name? Do you forget? Do you remember?
Yeah,
Um,
Roruzu, or I don't. Yeah,
the girl that can make stuff. She
yeah,
makes.
Momo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Momo. She's basically pointing her out as kind of her counterpart. Jesus,
Mm.
saying like, "Hey, we've kind of been put in the same box because we, did that commercial together, and like people told us both to join beauty pageants." Seems like kind of a random moment,
Mm.
but then it's less random when you follow it up with the next scene,
Yeah.
which is Tokiyami and Kuriro. And Kuriro specifically is like, "Hey, man, like we have a similar quirk, we share the same destiny."
Yeah.
I love the animation on that dude though. He looks slick.
This every moment he's on screen is a lot of effort was put into that.
Have we seen him before?
I think he was. I remember him vaguely from the sports festival. You know, the one where they did like the jousting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
I think I remember him from, like, we've seen him before, like in, like seeing the other classes and stuff. But I don't. I think it's definitely the first time we've heard him talk.
Yeah. So they set that up pretty quick, right? And they explain his quirk that he can more or less travel where there are shadows.
Mm-hmm.
And then it starts like without much warning. Like the match starts. The first thing I noticed was like the slick animation of Dark Shadow running around and the fact that he can go super far.
Mm.
But it doesn't really last long
No.
because Dark Shadow gets hijacked by this Kuriro guy.
Which was, and like right when it kicks in, and like, he does take over Dark Shadow, it's like, oh, here we go. This is they definitely wasted a lot less time, like in the last fight with the previous group, to get right into the action. There was no, like, they had that quick, like you said, they had the quick little banter before the match, and then when the match starts, there was no time to like kind of not even set up a plan or communicate. It was kind of just on.
Yeah, they just sort of go for it. That was really, really cool. Because Kuriro was just, I guess the way I would describe it is he was really hard to subdue. That whole fight of him, first he takes control of Dark Shadow and charges at Class A.
Mm-hmm.
Then they sort of get him out of there, but he's incredibly difficult to catch.
Yeah, he was out of there. And it was cool seeing them trying to catch him.
Yeah, because he was all over the place with the pipes, right?
Yeah, and it was also cool because you can see, it's probably the only moment in the episode where Momo makes like an attempt. You actually see her use her quirk.
Oh yeah, the nets, eh?
And she's just shooting them out of her hands.
Yeah.
I feel like anytime we've seen her, it's like she has like this weird shyness about her.
Right. Usually like comes out of her chest or her like abdominal area.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I think so. Anytime we see every now and then, like, you'll see her, like, she turns her back to the screen, clearly opens like her shirt more, and then something comes out that she turns back around. It's like, but to see her like on the fly, like that was like a quick little moment of, oh, she has upgraded a little bit. She has been working on her quirk.
They're doing a really good job every time, like even casually with moments like this, being like everybody's leveling up.
Yeah.
Like, Dark Shadow has a whole moment in this episode, but yeah, I didn't even notice that. That's a good pick.
And even to follow through, like Curio, like it connects with him and he just fades into the pipe, and I was like,
that was so cool.
Yeah, this dude was all over the place.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Then it's probably well, I've got like two favorite moments of the episode, but this next sequence I love. It's the whole backstory flashback, which is like a decent chunk of the episode because this one really flew by. But it's the whole backstory of Tokiyami's experience being an intern or whatever you want to call it, a trainee with Hawks. Did you know he was with Hawks? Like as a student?
I don't think so. Because I remember there being a moment where because they're all in the dorms at this point, and they're all like trying to get their like internships of where they go, and I think it was either Tokoyami or it might have been Todoroki too, where they said, "Well, where did you guys end up?" And they say, "Oh, I haven't had a way," or they didn't say, like they didn't want to say. I might be misremembering, but I think it might have been him. So like I think they might have teed up that he was kind of hiding it. But again, that was a while back. So
Yeah. So not a lot happens in this sequence other than, at first Tokiomi is kind of discouraged. Hawks doesn't seem to be a super great role model, or doesn't seem to show him a ton. And sorry, my chair is making noises. And then, though, also Hawks asked, it seems like Hawks went out of his way to get Tokiomi so he could ask him questions about the League of Villains.
okay.
Did you notice that? I thought maybe, is this further to that, subplot at the beginning of Season 5 about Hawks infiltrating the League of Villains?
100% why this is in this, that's why this scene is here.
Yeah,
It's I think, him getting his power and upgrading, that was kind of like a vehicle for the immediate moment, but I think that was just setting up a further the big scenario at the end of this season probably. We totally skipped by one of the funniest moments in this show.
What is it?
The birds of the feather joke.
Oh yeah.
And there's music and then it just cuts out. There's 2 seconds and he's like, is that a joke?
I love the deadpan.
Yeah. But so that's what I wanted to ask you too about that scene. Do you think he obviously he's using him for information on the League of Villains, but do you? And I know this is probably not the case because Hawks is clearly undercover, and I don't think we're gonna get a second he's he's a triple agent or what anything like that. He's actually working with them.
Yeah.
But do you think he's taking advantage of the fact that Tokoyami is a dark type hero? Or has the potential to potentially the image of swaying, because they've set up that he does not have control of Dark Shadow at times.
Interesting. I hadn't considered that. I don't know how.
But I said, we know that Hawks is a good guy still, for all we know.
Yeah, it would be really cheap if he was a triple agent.
Yeah, no, I know. It's a bit but as I was watching it, all I can think, because there's that scene. Well, actually, that's further. It's not the same. I forget there's two. There's a flashback within a flashback.
Yeah, it's super weird.
Yeah.
But, the part that I like the most is there's this really cool shot of the city as they're flying over it. And he has this great line of those who can fly should fly.
Yeah.
Soundtrack, scene, dialogue, I thought it was all good. That's probably among my favorite parts of the episode.
And it was kind of cool. There's another line Hawks had too. He says I have no interest in being the guiding hand for the next generation of heroes. And he goes, but if there's, and then I think that is what leads into those who can fly should fly. Piece of dialogue. He's kind of because that's just his stance. He's not about the betterment of heroes. He's kind of more for himself. That's his image, right? He's the number 2 hero.
Yeah.
And that's kind of going back to Endeavor a little bit. That's what he was chasing for such a long time.
Yeah.
It was just about the points. It was about being number 1. It wasn't about I'm sure to a certain extent it was about saving people and being a real hero. And I'm getting Stain vibes again. They're
Stain.
I do miss Stain, but do you know what I mean? How they've kind of hinted at the rankings a couple times, and kind of just the imbalance of the the beauty pageants and the commercials and all this and that. It's not just about saving people anymore. I'm not saying Stain's gonna make a comeback. That would be most appreciated.
I'd be
but
down.
Give
me all the darkness.
But that's the thing that I feel I'm kind of getting vibes that they're bringing back the internal conflicts of the hero society and the hierarchy of it all. There's a lot of this is a very oddly dense scene. We're seeing kind of in behind Hawks a little bit more.
It's a little loaded. I'm
it is a
excited
little
to
loaded.
see more of him.
Yes, I think we don't have enough of him in my opinion. I know we're about learning this class, but it would be nice to have even a spin-off series of just established heroes.
I'm almost surprised that hasn't happened yet, to be honest with you.
Do you think it's just because the market is too bloated? Because that's what every show has?
It's
or
possible.
That has been for so many years.
It might be a good, there might be a place for it, once they wrap up the OG manga. Who knows? Maybe that's what they're waiting on, I wonder. Do you remember when Game of Thrones wrapped? It was
8 shows
they
announced.
had something 5 in development, 1 green lit. I think they just announced that another one into production. I think they're doing at least 2, maybe 3. But they wanted to wait for the main one to be done. I don't know. That's a guess, but anyway. So the next scene following, like we leave this part, is Tokiyami sort of figures out how to fly. We get like this one really cool moment, and it looks like he's kind of got Kuriro's number. Like, oh shit, we gonna get you.
Yeah.
And Deku has like this sick moment of like
Classic Deku.
of like like actually no, this is I'm talking out of order, because what happens first is Kuriro goes like, gotcha bitch, and he grabs naval laser. Best part of the episode.
Yeah, I love naval laser.
Dude,
he's
voice
low-key.
acting, the voice like because the first part is it's this Kuriro guy like going, he goes by him really fast, and he's grabbing him, and it's just a one note from naval laser. He just he's like and then it's like him screaming as he's being thrown around, like dragged.
And just
I legit laughed. I rewound a couple times.
It was like watching a roller coaster. It was so like just the way like the swooping and the winding and like like going through all the pipe systems. Yeah, it was really, really funny.
That was funny. Then after that, that's when Tokiyami shows us the Dark Fallen Angel with his dark shadow, and he shows us his ability to fly. Midoriya gets this sick moment. Well, not sick, but a very quintessential Midoriya moment of like breaking it down.
But it was cool, and just at the end of like just like the respect he has. Like, I'm a total fanboy for Midoriya, but like the respect that he has for his classmates and like them bettering and advancing themselves. Like even like Bakugo, like he doesn't hate Bakugo. Like he just it's almost like he looked past all the bullying over the years.
He kills him with kindness.
He kills him, and like just is even like it's minor, but like like a couple, or probably last episode about the suit, he goes, oh, like cool upgrades to your suit, and Bakugo is just a brick. Also, we totally blew past, in my opinion, some pretty evident foreshadowing of Bakugo.
What'd I miss?
Well, there's in the beginning of the episode, when it was just kind of like when the teams start like sitting down, and like the teams of 4, and they're kind of going over what their plans are, and then it cuts to, I think it's like Midoriya and Minata and the girl, or Pinky and Uraka, and then it moves over to like Ida and his group, and then it moves over to Bakugo, and then his team kind of swarms in, and he kind of just like blatantly goes like, no, like stay out of my way.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, is he really not learned yet? Are they gonna make us see it one more time, that he like is
just cannot play well with others?
Can't play well with others, and I really don't think they're going to make him a villain. That's not what I'm getting at. But like, has he really not learned his lesson?
Yeah, like he failed the original test. He got held back with Todoroki. That's an interesting take. Yeah, it would be really cool to give him a moment of like playing, being a good teammate. But yeah, maybe he's not there yet. Because
that's the thing too. Like, is like Class 1A gonna like blow like Class B out of the water and win every one, or is there gonna be that one major Class A class that loses? Like, and I'm like, I was thinking, is it gonna be Bakugo's group because he's refusing to cooperate, or is that kind of like the the bait and switch of like, no, he is in this episode, he's gonna learn to cooperate and they're gonna have a big win. It's like 50-50 at this point.
It's a good pick. Yeah, I didn't even consider that, but that is a good point, because he's definitely botched some things in the past.
Yeah.
Like I think of the season 1 drill against Midoriya that he lost. Because Midoriya outsmarted him and played to the team, right? Played the objective.
Yeah. But that's the thing too, like I genuinely, because you and I have mentioned Bakugo a couple times so far this season, and it's nice to see he's grown on us. But I think this would be a huge misstep at this point, at this juncture,
5,
for his character development. If he is still like backsliding like this, it's gonna be like, come on, like,
yeah, he had his life saved by like Deku and Midoriya, all because of teamwork back in season 3. You would hope
And they had that
know?
like one last fight where he won. Like, that's
Yeah.
it just goes how his ego is like so easily bruised.
So hopefully, yeah, it'd be good to
Yeah.
see some growth. I forgot about that. Good call. Back to where we
So
were.
sorry, Midoriya nerding out.
This is pretty much the climax of the episode because it ends shortly thereafter. Midoriya nerds out, explains how like the Dark Shadow, Fallen Angel,
Works.
the functionality of it. I love that they bother. Like honestly, like I love that like they try to explain the quirk to you every time. They're not just like it just works this way because we said so. Like they just they do go for it.
Honestly, this is one of the first times in this show where it felt a little fillerish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, not that it was bad. And I think this is, I'm not, this is not a hot take by any means, because I think the show notoriously, not always in a bad way, but like it is kind of fillerish, even within a single episode. Like, it has its moments throughout a season where it's like clearly like a filler episode, and that's fine. And filler moments in the episode is fine, but you look at the clock's running down, you're like, this is passing time. you know?
So he does that, and then we get like not the final shot, but like this final really sick moment of Tokiyami grabbing Naval Laser, and they do a team up move. They do a coordinated naval buffet. Dude, that guy's voice acting, it's so goddamn funny.
It's so funny. I've always liked that character.
He's so funny. Yeah, so he's leveled up too, because he used to only be able to shoot straight beams.
And then he'd have to shit himself.
Yeah. And now he can shoot a bunch of little ones. But he lights up all the pipes. Kuriro can't hide anymore.
And the swooping animation of the pipes, the light, and Kiryu kind of like trying to hide and
drawing light like that, forcing perspective where you have to change the direction in which the shadows are going because he's emitting like all these different sources of light. Really, really good work. Really cool to see.
And not to throw shade at Mappa, but this is how you effectively use CG animation in your show.
Yeah, because there was CG here and it was good.
Yeah.
So then he comes out of the pipes, out of the shadows, and then like Momo and Co. Seem to corner him, and then we have a very big U-turn because like right as they corner him, it seems like Class B is falling to Plan B. They literally say that. And mushrooms start to appear everywhere. And for some reason, this is bad. We don't know if these are shiitake mushrooms or like magic mushrooms, but you don't want them growing on you.
At the very least, it gave away the Invisible Girl's position.
Right. Oh, duh. Do you think that's what it was for?
Well, I think it's clearly like her quirk, but it's definitely a good tracking mechanism.
Yeah.
Maybe, again, we're going to find out her quirk more, but maybe she knows like where her mushrooms are and who they're attached to. And
right, yeah, maybe she has some ability of like, if you have a mushroom on you, it's going to do something to you. I don't know. Give you fungus poisoning.
Definitely when this episode ended, I was kind of like,
we're just getting there.
That's the thing too. Like last week's episode kind of felt like it was the natural pace of like where it was like they're clearly going to end it.
Yeah.
I was just so into the scene. Like, it feels like we're hard on this episode, and we're not. Like, this is a really good episode, but like, and the case of point is like, it cuts to the exiting music, and I was like, fuck.
Like, yeah, no, right as you want more.
I did not want this to end.
And they were really hitting a stride too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that basically wraps it for this episode. I did not watch The Stinger intentionally, just because they seem to be giving away too much these days.
And that was the thing too. Like, not that I wasn't excited for this episode, and we had talked about it last week. I watched The Stinger, and I was like, that's the fucking episode.
Yeah.
Like, they said, and I guess we can talk about it now, because obviously we watched it, but they blatantly said, Tomoyaki reveals a new ability. Tomoyaki is at a disadvantage due to a quirk on the other team. And I think they mentioned something about Momo has a rival on the other team. And I was like, and then you watch this episode, and you're like, those were all three major beats of this epised, and they blatantly just said that in the Stinger.
Yeah. So
maybe going
just
forward.
Not bother. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that basically wraps it for this episode. I'm excited to see how this particular one plays out. Like you said earlier, it feels like they probably are not. We're not going to have a Class A avalanche of wins. I think we're probably gonna drop one or two, take a couple L's. So it'll be interesting to see if we pull through on this one, or what happens with the end of this fight, and then onwards with Bakugo and Midoriya and co.
Oh, I'm excited. Good stuff.
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. If you like this, feel free to tune into the post show coming up next. We'll probably, release that a day or two after this one comes out, but I think today we're going to talk about Jujutsu Kaisen, which I finally got around to checking out. Invincible. Anything else from you, Grant, that we're going to chat about?
So, new for the show, a record that I've been dying to talk to you about. Some disappointment in Invincible, and
see, that's a hot topic. I'm interested to talk about Invincible.
It's probably not as spicy as you think, but check out the show and you'll see if it's spicy or not.
Check out the post show. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.